R&D engineers embrace this right away. The idea that you could have a new process that could take designs and geometries in totally different ways, it really allowed us to think very, very different. In fact, it was the process that we were waiting for and looking for.
In the early 2000s, Stryker engineers started exploring the potential of 3D printing for manufacturing cementless artificial joints. For cementless models, manufacturers must develop porous interfaces where implants attach to bone. This promotes the ingrowth of bone tissue, what's called biological fixation. Stryker thought the technology might prove especially valuable for a tibial baseplate, where the implant meets the upper shin bone in a total knee replacement. The engineers thought 3D printing might produce optimal porosity while also offering unprecedented design freedom. But 3D printing with metals was still an emerging technology, far from production ready for artificial joints.
Obviously we're making medical devices, so we need to make sure that every aspect of those devices is looked at and made sure that we're supplying the highest quality components. So it took a long time for us to make that final leap into additive. It wasn't until 2013 that we released our first additively manufactured product. And within that time it was about gathering data, it was about building up the business case as well as showing that the technology had the potential and was production capable.
At many points, Stryker engineers had to develop their own know-how. Early on especially, few industry-wide technical standards were available.
If you're actually creating your standards and you have to create the performance standards for the product, that we're pretty good at. But consistency and looking at all the unknowns of additive manufacturing, for instance, when you have a build plate and you're making 10 different parts in one run, are all the parts based on location of the build plate exactly the same? What is the difference? If you look at different powder configurations, lot by lot by lot of material powder, were we creating the same part? When you made parts, did you have some areas where maybe the consolidation of the powder wasn't as great as you wanted and you had some porosity?
Evaluation also involved conventional testing for strength and durability.
In terms of the testing we performed and looked at during the development phases, if we take a tibial baseplate, for example, that tibial baseplate is loaded mechanically. When it's implanted into the body, it sits within the knee and there's forces that go through that. So we have to look and analyze every single aspect of the mechanical loading that will go through during its lifetime. So we perform fatigue tests, we perform static material tests, and then we also look at how that will perform over the long term.
Then came the challenges of scaling up for manufacturing.
Even after we had the design validated and we had a part that could pass fatigue testing, had dimensional integrity, that still doesn't mean you can make 1,000 of them.
As the R&D engineers performed test after test, colleagues in supply chain and production began to embrace the additive manufacturing challenge.
It's always difficult to go from a benchtop R&D process into a manufacturing process, but that's what we do. That's part of the job. And yes, there were a lot of difficulties and things to get over, such as making sure you have stable equipment, making sure you understand the environment you need to be manufacturing in, making sure you understand what you need to be testing when you test the component, making sure you understand what the actually form, fit, and function of the component is. But they were challenges we expected.
So an example of one problem is, let's take that total knee tibial component that caps a bone resected tibia. In that case, was every component flat when it came out of additive manufacturing? And at times, for reasons we didn't fully understand, we didn't get the flatness that we wanted.
Testing led Stryker to understand variables that could affect that flatness. And company engineers also addressed challenges of quality assurance.
One of the benefits of additive manufacturing, it allowed us to make complex shapes. Well, complex shapes are actually harder to measure, and our quality assurance people now had to convert to laser inspection and using lasers and looking at computer coordinate measuring machines in ways like never before. That's actually a good problem to have. That was okay. But for the mechanical integrity, the porosity of the equipment, we could do chemical analysis on a part, make sure we didn't introduce light elements, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. But by the same token, the consistency and consolidation of a powder deep within the solid construct, you couldn't see it. So what we decided to do was use micro CT, just like a one of our patients would go for a CT scan in a hospital to look at a cross-section of their bone and see the health of their bone, we do the same thing.
Stryker and other companies using additive manufacturing say newer techniques, like in-process monitoring, may prove effective too.
So a lot of the machines you see nowadays, you can take images of the build as it's being performed, and you can potentially start to use some of those images as verification methods at the end of a build to make sure that everything within that build has worked and is successfully. So there is potential with additive because you have the flexibility and you're actually manufacturing that material layer by layer to be able to perform this analysis and hopefully at some point in the future be able to implement that as a verification as to the process at the end.
Stryker had the engineering talent and research dollars to embark on a very careful and ultimately successful journey with additive manufacturing.
We're proud of the tibial base plate because it was our first product that we had on the market from an additive manufacturing perspective. It was a great achievement for everyone that was involved in additive to have that finally released onto the market. We were able to input features onto our tibial base plate that we would not have been able to do with any other manufacturing technologies. We can put solids in places where we wouldn't have been able to with other technologies. Our porous material can overlap with solid material. So design freedom was a major benefit with the additive manufacturing technology.
But how might Stryker's experience help other companies at earlier stages of analyzing the business and technical merits of additive manufacturing? We asked Stryker engineers about lessons they could share.
I think companies that want to go additive and decide to go additive and only decide to go additive at the front end before doing their diligence on the work are indeed making a mistake. I can tell you, we are not taking all our components at Stryker and converting them to additive manufacturing. There are some configurations that are quicker and easier, and our conventional machining and manufacturing is just fine for it.
But when additive manufacturing may be an appropriate technology, Stryker says many resources are now available to help companies make good decisions.
I often asked, especially by small companies, that we don't have the resources Stryker has. How do we become successful in additive manufacturing and bring that into a product line? And I could tell the very first thing I say, it's fortunate you're asking the question today. Additive's maturity has come so far to look at a part and to have a company that sells the equipment or some consulting engineering house that may be familiar with additive manufacturing, they could give you a good probability of success of that part. They could project cost of that part, and they can help you along the way with mechanical properties. People have done software for additive manufacturing, simulation of additive manufacturing. You could do so much predictive modeling even before you spend any money partnering with material suppliers, partnering with the equipment manufacturers, and even going to some of the universities which have programs and professors that actually could do some of the analytics. I think we're living in a day and age right now that it's not only extraordinary, but the help that's out there for additive manufacturing is really quite phenomenal.